Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen right now, today's installment's going to be taking a closer look at the new G.I. Joe Classified series, Saw Viper. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know about this fig. So if you've got one on pre-order, you can make a decision to keep that pre-order, or if you catch it on the shelf somewhere, then make a whimsical decision, whatever. Just give you lots of information so you can make a purchase decision. Talk you through the packaging. I'll talk you through the visual experience and the aesthetic qualities. Talk you through the articulation. Walk through all the accessories and added value, and just give you tons and tons of nice, thorough review information. So let's not dilly-dally around. Let's get into it. And let's start by going back in time to visit past Chris, taking a look at the package when it first arrived on his doorstep. Here we are then, folks. Here is the Saw Viper in packaging. Then you can see it's in the, now standard G.I. Joe Classified series style packaging with the windowed front, the slimmer boxes, and this kind of carbon fiber pattern motif thing in the background there. So we're showing off the figure in the front, a few of the goodies being shown off as well, the logo, Cobra character, name of the figure, Saw Viper, although I know this has caused a bit of contention, semi-automatic weapon, because that's inaccurate to the lore, but there we go. And then round the back, we can see that he's number 147 in the line. Got the digital render of the figure in action with some cheeky little Easter egg stuff in there. Got this guy lined up for my next Easter egg video, folks. Keep an eye out for that sometime soon. Couple of breakaway windows with some highlighted features in there. All the legal bollocks and malarkey across the bottom. This is the import sticker, folks. Once again, big shout out to InDemandToys over here in the UK for keeping us Hungry Joe collectors nice and well fed with figures early and not from Hasbro Pulse. And then, of course, we've got the file card information. Let's take a closer look at that and learn a bit more about the Saw Viper, shall we? All right, then. First on the list, we've got this little target over here on the left-hand side. This is reflective of Saw Viper's love of retro arcade machines. Loves a good spaceship shooter. And, they all hang out in their barracks just playing arcade machines. They've got a bag full of quarters, keeps them busy night and day. Of course, a Saw Viper barracks with a load of arcade machines in it can get a little bit fragrant sometimes. So this is their air purifier here. Big fans of the air purifier to keep things a little bit more... we've all been in an arcade. This little eyeball with a line through it is actually reflective of the fact that the Saw Vipers actually can't see through their helmets. It was a design flaw, and they've just not had enough balls to let Cobra Commander know and correct it. And then finally, we got the little moon and the starry sky there, because Saw Vipers are all avid stargazers. Love to get a telescope out, take the helmet off so they can see, obviously, and have a look at the stars and enjoy the constellations. Then on the side here, we've got the painted artwork of a Saw Viper in action, about to use the buzzsaw to cut into a Joe. And then the usual crap on the other side, like the QR code to nowhere and the repeats of the file card. Okay, folks, well, if you're minting box, you've had your little packaging run through, but I'm not. I'm going to go away and crack this bad boy open, get good and hands-on, have some man-child playtime with the figure and gather some quality review thoughts to share with you. So stick around. Future Chris will be back in a few moments to give you some review thoughts. So, yeah, 3, 2, 1, and we're off. Okay then, folks, well, here is the Saw Viper as he came out of the package. Obviously, the helmet is a key part of the visual identity, but I like to do this first section just kind of fresh out the box without accessories. So stick around, we'll have a look at that a little later on when we dig through the accessories and see the complete visual identity of the character. But as it stands right now, it's very clear that this is a modern reinterpretation of the character. You can see the vestigial elements of the original vintage design in there, the color scheme, the flashes of the lime green trimming, which again, I'll do a little peek of the helmet here. You can see it's in there. The kind of core idea of the way he's armored up, but they've obviously updated the armor, classifiedized it, and made it a little bit more appropriate for the kind of 6-inch style of the line. So it's not just a straight up retro, reproduction in the 6-inch scale, which is cool. Your mileage will vary with that. I flip-flop, as many of you know. Sometimes I'm really into it when they've got super vintage look about them. Other times I'm into it when it's a nice reinterpretation. And this one looks interesting. Got a lot of shelf presence. Very much catches the eye. Bringing him a little bit nearer to the camera so we can take a look at some of the finer details here. You can see that underneath the helmet, they've done a head sculpt in this kind of balaclava setup. Got some nice textured detail in there. Actually, I'll just take that off for the brief moment while we have a look at this. Got the textured detail in the mask. Got the little like earpiece communicator, which again is a little nod towards the vintage look of the figure, but also communicating a lot in the parts of the face we can actually see with great facial features sculpted around the eyes, around the mouth. You can see the nose shape underneath the mask there, and the paint applications are well applied to the eyeballs as well. I probably would have liked a little bit more kind of a villainous grimace of some kind. They've chosen not to. They've chosen to go for a more neutral look, but that's fine. And then, as you saw, this little neck protector piece you can take on and off. Some nice visual elements in there. You can see that padding, that cushioning around the back, the two different colours in the purple shades, and then, of course, the black trimmings on it there, which sits over the top and has these little clips to hold it down against his armor piece, although I have to confess I don't find they hold it down very well. But yeah, just an interesting set of choices there. Helmet or no helmet, neck protector or no neck protector. This is quite an interesting look in its own right. Moving a bit further down, we can see aesthetically that he's very heavily armored up, quite reminiscent of the version 1 Firefly, Tripwire, you know, figures of that nature. Got this big old bulky vest here with all these pouches across the front. Got the shoulder pad, the pauldrons, the wrist guards in there. All this armor all the way down his legs. Codpiece in the mix, of course. Got to protect your valuables. So it makes him quite a bulky figure in that respect, and he looks quite bulky. I've seen out and about some folks saying he could be a bit taller or he could be bulkier, but I'm fine with it. It works for me. They've bulked him out through the process of adding the armor. And of course, just like the neck brace piece, you can pop the hands and remove these extra bits as well if you do want to thin him out. I suspect too, although I can't confirm, it looks like it's just a plain body under there, but you could possibly cut this or maybe heat it up and get it off over the top of his head. I don't know. Oh, he's a little out of focus there. Sorry, folks. But certainly in terms of the sculpting detail, lots of fine sculpting detail in here. Got a little Cobra insignia on the front. Got the little neck elastic around the neck of his jumper, the straps and the brackets. Got the sculpting in the belt. The extra pouches down the side, and then of course all the armor pieces have got this armor pattern sculpted into them as well, just giving it texture, giving it depth. And then you can see in the trousers underneath, got all this kind of textural detail where it's all bunched up, where the top of the boots and the straps around the side are all kind of pinching his trousers up, which is nice to see. Bit more armor padding sculpted in on the back there, and a different kind of set of texture details on that too, which is nice. Leathery look on the pistol holster. The overall aesthetic works well uniformly with the rest of your kind of Cobra Trooper lineup. Obviously, he's got his own unique colour scheme and his own unique style, but he fits well in amongst all the other troopers too. So if you're troop building up and you want to line him up amongst some of your other soldiers, then you can do, despite the difference in colours and the different textures and flavours, still sort of works. He still feels Cobra. Although, to be fair, as far as I'm concerned, I'm treating this as the unique Cobra Saw Viper from issue 110, who was later known to be Robert Skelton. So aesthetically, this guy is definitely a thumbs up from me. The kind of more standard height doesn't bother me in comparison to others. I get it. Your mileage will vary with that, but I like the different flavour, the different specialism in the collection, and I also like that this kind of iconic character, possibly the most lethal Cobra character in the comic book continuity, with the highest actual kill count of named Joes, is finally in the line, and that all works. He looks like that to me. Like I say, I could have just done with something a little bit more menacing in the face, perhaps, but I recognise that the helmet's going to cover most of that anyway. So thumbs up on the aesthetic. I'm liking what I am seeing. Okay, so there's the visual experience. Let's now take a closer look at the articulation. Okay, folks, well, if you've had a G.I. Joe Classified Series figure in hand before, then a lot of the articulation will be familiar to you. And it's fairly standard. For the line, there's 1 or 2 quirks, but overall it's fairly standard. So if you don't need the walkthrough of the articulation, then feel free to avail yourselves of the timestamps that I've placed in the chapters below and jump ahead to the accessories and added value section of the review. However, if you would like to hang around and see if there's any quirks, or this is the first G.I. Joe Classified Series review you've ever seen, then let me give you a walkthrough of the articulation. Getting started up top then with the head, it's the standard ball in the base of the head, ball at the base of the neck. Obviously, this big protective neck piece is going to restrict your movement somewhat, but if I pop that off for a second, you can see that he's got decent down. It's all right up, full 360 all the way around, and then obviously on the ball in the head there, you can do some wibbly-wobbly stuff around, which is okay. Popping the neck piece on restricts that a great deal, and then that's further minimized when you pop the helmet on. In fact, let's do that quickly now. Jumping ahead, usually do the accessories in a separate section, but if I pop the helmet on now as well, you can see that your motion is not too bad side to side, but it's much more limited. Moving down into the shoulders, you've got the butterfly joint there, and then the peg and hinge in the armpit shoulder bit there. It's a little bit restricted by these arm pads, but you can go back and forth all the way around and then hinge out into the T. And because they're attached a little bit further down on the bicep there, your movement's not quite as restricted. And of course, as I mentioned before, you can pop the hands and remove all this if you're so inclined. Got the swivel at the top of the bicep and tricep. You've got the pinless elbow that will get you up to there with the armor pieces on. Again, if you take those off, you can get a little bit more movement in there. And then you have the standard pegged-in hands, which can swivel in the wrist there. And then this right hand has got an up and down hinge. And the left hand has got a forward and back. There's an ab crunch in the torso underneath the vest there. You can get a little bit of movement out of it. They've placed the vest with a little bit of height and a bit of looseness, so you can get a bit of movement from it. And then it's the ball joint in the waist, giving you the swivel and twist and extra kind of movement in that space. Standard drop-down joint in the groin there, giving you that extra motion forward. It's all right in terms of splits, not much of a Russian ballet dancer there. And then the thigh cut goes along this kind of armor-plated line there, so you can see that they've put the thigh cut in line with this armor piece across the top, not to break the aesthetic there. Got the pinless double knee that will get you up to there. And then curiously, no boot cut at all, so no swivel at the top of the boot here or anything going on down by the ankles, which is quite unique for a G.I. Joe Classified figure. Usually you get some sort of ankle or boot swivel. And then finally, the standard hinge and rocker in the ankles. So yeah, overall the articulation is good. I'm a fan of the G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation scheme anyway. The kind of aesthetic stuff, in terms of his, the way he's dressed, doesn't get in the way too much. Certainly not as much as I anticipated it getting in the way when I first saw the preview of the figure. So that's quite pleasing. The absence of a boot cut is quite curious. An interesting decision. Presumably they didn't want to break up these knee pads or something, but that helps sometimes, doesn't it? Having that extra swivel down below and not having that here can be a little bit of a hindrance. But yeah, overall, I've managed to pose him up in some interesting poses. I've taken some photos with him a day or two ago. When was it? Yesterday, I was taking some pictures with him, getting goods and hands on and sort of posing him up with some other Vipers and things, and everything was fine. So articulation's a thumbs up. Absolutely. Okay, well, that's your walkthrough of articulation. Let's now do a walkthrough of the accessories and the added value. And to start us off then, I've given you a sneaky peek of it a couple of times already in this video. We have the helmet with the figure. Obviously a key part of the character's visual identity, so have to sort of give this some focus. Got the big, bright green, sort of luminous lime green visor there, which is obviously a part of the character's visual identity, and also then gives this belt buckle, makes this feel a little less on its own out in a sea of purple. Nice sculpted contours and definition in there, and some rivets and some design to give it some depth. I'm obviously showing this off without the neck piece on it. I'll put that back on in a second, but yeah, it's nice. It's a good look. It's a nice tight fit as well, not coming off anytime soon, but it's it's good. I like it. Yeah, it's just says Saw Viper. If you're familiar with the character from back in the day or from the comic books, then it says Saw Viper. And there we go, folks. There's the helmet on with the neck brace in place as well. So just obviously obscuring a lot more of the kind of facial features in the lower half of the face around by the chin. But it really increases the sort of look of menace and evil sawiness about him. Then onto his weapons loadout. You can see he's got this big old Would this be a heavy machine gun or a light machine gun? Probably a light machine gun. It's curious to me. It's got this kind of drum on the bottom here, which is in the purple, but also then the belt-fed piece, which we'll have a look at in a minute. But this drum is removable there. That's fine. Got the handle on the front for holding it. Big old piece of single molded plastic. Got the handle, which is a little bit unique in flavour. This thing's a bit wishy-washy. It pops off all the time. And it doesn't angle very well for some of the poses I was trying to get him into. That was a little bit more kind of awkwardly angled. You can see the barrel's a bit soft and the handle's a bit soft as well, but the main body is pretty firm compared to some of the gummier weapons we've had in the past. But yeah, this is fine, good looking, interesting, unique piece of weaponry. Definitely good for, you know, chopping down Joes. Literally chopping down Joes, in fact, because it comes with this little kind of chainsaw bayonet piece, which is really interesting. So we've got this little peg hole at the bottom there. You can plug that in. It's in the purple with then the metallic-looking blade. So you can just like really get into it bayonet-style, chopping, slicing through your G.I. Joes. A very literal interpretation, as Lenny said in a recent stream, of the word saw there. But then it's also removable, and you've got the little holdy handle, so you can use it like a kind of bladed weapon in his hands, giving you a little extra dimension of extra range of possibility in terms of the way you want to pose him up or utilize this piece of weaponry when you're having your man-child playtime. Actually, I'm going to jump ahead to the backpack next before I finish the weapons loadout. Because this sort of has a part to play with this. But yeah, big old single piece of sculpted plastic with this handle at the top there. Got some different coloured details too, the black and purple to match up with the rest of his uniform. Love this sculpted detail in here on the back. Pegs in, standard, which is nice and fine. There's a peg on the back of it here, which I think... I'm not sure. I had a look at Hasbro's promo pictures, and it looks like they've got one of his light machine gun sort of pegged in like this without the drum or anything on it. So I think that might be the intent there. Although what you would then do with the drum and the bayonet, the chainsaw bayonet thing, I have no idea. But it looks like that's how that's the purpose of that. If anybody's it can enlighten me any further as to what that peg is for beyond that. I don't know, like hanging your thing off or something, let me know. But then it's also got this little channel, this little port at the bottom here, which, to bring it all together, you can plug in this big old belt feeder here, which I don't know what the purpose of that is. Is that it's all a bit blurred, really, but I think this is a belt-fed gun with a drum as well. I don't know guns. Maybe someone who's a little bit more au fait with firearms can enlighten to me as what's going on there. But he's got this like big belt feeder section. This is nice, good and flexible for helping you pose it out. Got the sculpted detail in there on both sides too, which is lovely. So when you kind of put it all together, you can plug the belt feeder into the backpack at the base here, bring it round, plug it into the other side, or into this little channel on the side of the gun, and keep the drum on it too. I don't know, for spare ammunition or whatever. Put your saw on, so you can get it all kind of interacting and working together nicely. The only criticism I have really is that I find this slips out quite a lot. You can plug it in quite far, but I've been knocking it out a few times, and this isn't a very tight and good deep fit in there either. But otherwise, yeah, it's okay. Oh, and these handles keep popping out because they've decided to go for a forward and back hinge on this hand rather than a up and down hinge, which would have been more suitable for the type of grip that you're looking for. But yeah, overall, that looks pretty like, pretty like, shooting into a pit of captured Joes, out in the deserts of Trucial Abysmia. And of course, as I've just demonstrated, this thing, the peg on the bottom of there is not great. It drops out all the time. You have to really kind of cram it in. And then finally, the Saw Viper's got a little bit of small arms as well. He's got this handgun here, this pistol, looks like a kind of 9mm piece. That's an interesting looking one. And someone will have to remind me if you've seen this before, but it's not ringing a bell with me, but it's a nice looking one with this kind of sort of suppressed kind of front and the extended magazine. Got the little channel in the front there for your blast effects, which is all good. Nice to have a handgun. And then he's got a little knifey piece here, which I think is a reuse of the one on the Cobra Troopers. Standard uniform Cobra daggery knife thing. And these both have storage on the figure. We've got a holster just there on his hip for his handgun and a sheath at the base of his back there for his knife. So again, folks, I think I've got to give it a thumbs up. There's a few little niggly bits around the gun, like the well, overall with the accessories that I can't quite get my head around, but overall the way it contributes to the visual identity, the way it opens up your posing opportunities, little touches like making the chainsaw bayonet removable so you can hold it in his hand and do various bits with it, and like putting the handle on the backpack like I've got in Pose now, stuff like that just adds depth, allows you to do some good personality in the photographs or the posing displays that you're doing, and it's a solid selection. It's a solid selection, so I'm very happy. It's definitely given me some good quality man-child playtime, some mileage in it there. So I'm giving the accessory selection a thumbs up. Okay, great. So there's the accessories. Let's now take a quick peek at the Saw Viper next to a couple of other G.I. Joe Classified Series figures, shall we? Here we are then, folks. Here's the Saw Viper next to the Night Creeper, as promised, so that we can compare the purpleness and take a look at how they're sort of purple bros. Here's the Saw Viper with a classic Viper. This is the mainline Cobra Island version of the figure, not the triple pack one. I think the reds are a bit darker on the triple pack ones. Anyway, there he is with the Viper. And here he is next to the Range Viper. He looks a bit stuntier, but that's because I've got him kind of squatted down, controlling his big heavy machine gun. But yeah, they look like a menacing pair together, don't they? Although the blue and purple don't work so good, I don't think. Right then, boys and girls, here is the Range Viper going around on the turntable, so you can get a nice 360 look at the figure. And while you're eyeballing that, I'll give you some final thoughts, but there's not a great deal else to say. I think through the course of the review, I've given a sense that I'm happy with the figure, and I think that I would recommend this Saw Viper. If you're looking for a bulky, mean-ass looking light machine gunner that's got a little bit of personality and character and a little bit of a different flavour to add a bit of colour variety and some interesting shelf presence to your collection of Vipers, to your Army built Vipers, then I think you could do far worse than this guy. Is it perfect? No, it's definitely flawed. There's weird little niggles going on here and there. No boot cut. The loosey goosey stuff in some of the accessory selection, the weird pointless peg, all that kind of bits. But overall, when you qualify it around the man-child fun and the man-child playtime fun, he's been on my desk for a few days now, and while I've been on conference calls at work and stuff, I just find myself fiddling around, posing around, putting him into these little poses and things. I've taken a few pictures that I've enjoyed kind of framing and composing, so I've enjoyed my man-child playtime, and for that reason alone, it gets a thumbs up. He's made a good desk figure for the last few days, and certainly got me through some very lengthy system developer calls. So yeah, there we go. Okay, well, I hope you found this useful. If you did, Saw Viper right at the end there. So there you go. He's a little bit top heavy with the backpack on, although that's more down to the quality of my cheap Amazon turntable than it is anything else. What was I saying now? Oh yeah, do the YouTubey stuff, like and subscribe, blah 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 blah. But all that remains to say is I hope you have a really lovely day, folks. Have a lovely rest of the week. It's getting close to Christmas now, so if I don't see you beforehand, have a great holiday season, boys and girls, and I'll catch you on the other side. Otherwise, all right, take it easy.